Well, tonight, a very, very interesting show. The one that is way overdue. And as you guys can see, the title of the show is The Boule Grinch That Stole Reparations. We have Dr. Short here tonight. What do you mean they stole our reparations, Dr. Short?
Oh my God, they've done more than stole our reparations. They have helped facilitate genocide. We have literally an army of traitor enemy killers, just like what happened in Rwanda, except they do it psychologically and spiritually. And they're amongst us, they look like us, and they're the enemy from within. The Boule stole our reparations. Let's just first start off by, in recent times, when at least I was alive, people need to know that the Boule denounced Martin Luther King, and the Boule denounced the anti-Vietnam War movement and took sides with President Johnson against the real movement of our people. And so if you understand that Martin Luther King died championing the cause of reparations, well, the Boule basically gave thumbs down and signaled to white America that they were okay with Dr. King getting whacked. So when we did have a movement and reparations became the focus, the Boule stepped aside and said, we're not with them.
So they say, so he was Martin Luther King, he was part of them, or he was never part of them?
You have to understand, you can be in the Boule, but you can mess up. Bill Cosby was in the Boule, and I don't know who he offended or what he did. But the Boule will cut you loose if white society gets angry with you and you become a liability in their way of being able to assimilate and become white people. The Boule will then turn on you.
So that's always been an open secret that Martin Luther King couldn't go to every church across America with
Oh, no, it's deeper than that. He couldn't go to certain cities. Dr. King was uninvited from places. The Black Boule and Masonic pastors would be at the airport threatening to even kill Dr. King. He could not go to Columbus, Georgia. The pastors were there to physically fight him. He was not welcome in Dallas. He went, but the minister that was one of the people that worked with him was assassinated in 1965. So there's certain places you can't go. We need to start being honest. The situation that Black people are in America is due to Black people as much as it is due to racism. And you can't systematically and structurally oppress and do all these things to people without an organized group or collection of groups working to block our people. And this is what the Boule has been doing for over 100 years.
So they basically gave the government the license to kill King.
They support the destruction of most Black people as long as they're okay. And it's interesting, just about the same way in China, maybe about 6% of the Chinese population is in the Communist Party, and somewhere about the same percentage of Black Americans are in the Boule. And all of them are guilty. All your audience, if you're in this shit, it doesn't matter whether you're a Klansman and you hang someone, you're part of a group that's bad to Black people. If you're in an organization that's stifling the survival of our people, you're in the way, you're a traitor. We're the only people that don't have a concept of what treason to the group is. The Boule has a concept of what treason to the Boule is. And people need to know that Martin Luther King was kicked out of Alpha Phi Alpha. for being a jailbird. And yet all of these frats across the country have hazing cases where they've beaten, killed, brutalized people, but they're not seen as jailbirds. But you're trying to get freedom for Black people and you went to jail? Who told you to fight for our freedom? Martin.
So Dr. Short, why none of the people that was around King during that time that was really for the movement, some of, even though there were few, why did they allow this lie to be told that he was well liked?
Everybody, almost everybody around Dr. King was Boule. He was Boule. They were Masons and Greeks, and they're the people who have seized the high position in our community. So Martin Luther King, you're thinking, because all these people claim to be full service sororities and fraternities, and if you just go to them and talk to them, you'll get it. No, you won't. No, you won't. So in reality, Martin Luther King was bumped off with the help of Black Greeks. One of them is Omega Psi. He's very famous. His name is Jesse Jackson. And the other one, I believe, is Greek. His name Billy Kyles. We'll look him up. I bet you'll come up Greek. Andrew Young is Greek. I love my dear friend C.T. Vivian, but he was also, I believe, Greek. They're all in this. And they're the people who speak for us and agitate supposedly for us, but they really help themselves. The women are the same. They're in the way. It was a Greek letter woman who assumed the responsibility of fighting for reparations, which would not include cash, a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, that Jamaican American Sheila Jackson Lee. She's a Delta,
and she still has HR 40 on her desk.
Sure,
has
she
it
does.
pointing to the floor,
and she probably wipes her ass with it every night. And let's not stop there. All these homeless Black people, all these illegals being put in public housing and Blacks being thrown out. Did you know it was a supposedly, allegedly Black lesbian Delta that's in charge of HUD? Oh my God, when you start seeing Black people be destroyed, there's always a Boule person helping do it. Always. Now I want to share something with you. There have been several legislative efforts to promote LGBTQ, Jewish safety, Asian safety, things for Ukraine, things for illegals. The CBC, which is full of Greeks, has marched almost 100%, if not 100%. You've never gotten 100% support for reparations for Black people. It will never happen because they don't want us to have it. You see, reparations, true reparations, not just a check, it would make these people irrelevant. It's sort of like the doctors that don't want you healthy. They need sick people to get money. The Boule has no particular skills or ability other than that they can prevent Black people from getting free while looking like they're freedom fighters. If Black folks got loose, if we really got free, we would turn on these bastards. They would be no longer important. We need to remember that the Boule was against desegregation. When Black folks had to go to certain Black businesses and certain churches and this and certain schools, they weren't saying, let's have the best business. Let's have the best school. Let's do the best, but instead, you can't go anywhere else, like a prison. Start thinking about when you've dealt with Black businesses, Black organizations, how their attitude isn't to give you the best, but basically it's like crap falling out their ass. You better do this because this is all you're going to get. This is part of the culture. They reinforce a culture that you can only get what we give you. It's part of the slave culture. They are a layer of oppression and domination that we don't deal with. Everyone talks about the Black Panthers being slaughtered in Chicago back in December 1969, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Clark and Fred Hampton, but you know who shot the machine gun into the apartment? It wasn't a white man. It was a black man with the nickname Gloves. This black man fired the machine gun that probably killed those two men. And this black man was known for being one of the most brutal police on the force in Chicago. We aren't in this bad situation just because we're hated by others. We're in this bad space because others are against us from the outside, and there are others that are against us from within, who see their opportunity to get paid off of our destruction. The enemy from within is the Boule, and anybody that is a fellow traveler of the Boule. Let us be real about this. I need to remind everyone that the Boule is in every city and in every state and in every family.
Do you
in
think,
every county, in every county,
Dr. Short,
in
you
every
think
system.
they were part of the group that eventually took Kylie House down? They helped the government take her down?
Of course, they're part of that. They're part of the people who took Garvey down. They're part of the people that helped get rid of Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. You name it. I mean, the Boule. And let me be clear: if they don't pledge Greek, they're Prince Hall Masons. They're in these groups, and there's some other odd groups and all. But even if they don't pledge or join these secret societies, if they're submitted to a white power authority, if you're a snitch for the FBI, which at one point was run by a homosexual Mason by the name of J. Edgar Hoover, Scottish, right? Those blacks submitted to J. Edgar Hoover, who went after Garvey, some of them Caribbeans. They serve the Masonic system. Now, let me just share with you how wicked it is. You get these people that are Luciferians who kill and butcher children. There's this new movie called The Sound of Freedom. It's not getting a lot of love in the black community because it's interesting. You got all of these loudmouth black women in red that are Deltas or AKAs on Capitol Hill. You don't see any real smoke against human trafficking or people with their organs harvested. Where are these goddamn black women? Where are these goddamn black men? And since the person who I'm going to curse all I want. Don't listen to anything I do. I speak the way I feel like speaking. And goddamn you for telling me, since you don't speak the truth in your own private life, for those of us who publicly tell the truth, to tell us how to do it. I hate cowards with so many standards.
The truth! You can't handle the truth!
Play that again.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
No, they can't handle the truth. In fact, I want to remind people in Revelations 21, when it talks about people going to hell, cowards are at the top of the list, not people that cuss. Think about why God didn't say cussers go to hell, but it did say cowards. We're a race full of cowards, and Africa has even more cowards, and the Caribbean is full of cowards. Cowards, liars, non-thinking, people waiting for someone to save you out of the sky. yeah, God's going to come back for you, but he doesn't come back for cowards. He doesn't come back for people that don't do stuff to free themselves. For all those who think religion is going to save them, religion always comes with rules, regulations, and conditions. Just like if you get one of those Burger King coupons, you can't go in and get a free double Whopper. You can't get a small burger and a small fry, right? You know, you get the coupon to give you that thing. You have rules for everything.
You know, Dr.
Rules
Short,
for
we
everything.
we haven't seen not one, like you mentioned, we haven't seen not one black organization, not one fraternity, not one sorority endorse that movie, Sound of Freedom.
They're not going to do it. Do you know why? I say this over and over in interviews. There's a group that Malcolm X warned about 59, 60 years ago, called the Leadership Conference for Civil Rights. It's a organization dominated by small hats, and it's Masonic and all that other stuff. And now it's called the Leadership Conference for Civil and Human Rights. Okay. And it's heavily, its partners include the LGBTQ, the illegals, all of that. Where you have LGBTQ, it means that you also have homophile, pedophile, friendly, if not active members. You will never get anything out of it. And in fact, our community has an epidemic of pedophilia. And the rap music thing, that whole thing with Africa Bambaataa, where everybody was silent about this man molesting boys and girls for years. Molestation is commonplace in the black church.
And you
It's
got
commonplace.
known rappers now that still won't denounce it.
Oh no, because no, it's because it's commonplace, and they have sex with children. They've always done such things, and there's a lot of abuse and pedophilia in these Greek letter organizations, and rape and sodomy and aggravated assault. This is part of how white folks kept us down, is by promoting immorality. It was done with the Native Americans too. Everybody, look at Puerto Ricans, they're a heavily delinquent population. Look at the Hawaiians, they're heavily delinquent, bombed out, drugged out, porned out, pedoed out, fagged out. That's a part of how you know a people are conquered, when they don't have their moral bearings. And so I just want to say to you, start looking. So no one's going to support Sound of Freedom. Many people, as much as they hate former President Donald Trump, he did more to fight human trafficking than any American president in history. Do you know every piece of legislation that was fighting against human trafficking that disproportionately impacts Black women, all you dumbass sisters out there?
Chucks and pearls.
Yes. None of the Black women in the Congress of the United States supported any initiative to protect women and girls. Zero.
I did know that.
If men had said, no, we hate women, when women facilitate women being raped, ripped, abused, it's a woman's right to choose, like killing a baby or killing a personal relationship, as we see more women shooting men and children, and some of them being shot back by children and so forth. This is absolutely amazing. This is what the Boule is doing. It is part of a moral rot of our people. It is destroying us. And so, look, you show me where the Boule has a strong presence, and I'll show you corruption, a moral rot, a lack of development, all of that. And when you see our communities in ruins all over the country, you know that the Boule is at its most powerful point. The only point and an only time recently where Black people have had any progress was in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. But by the late 70s, the Boule was unleashed on the Black community. In fact, a lot of people left the Boule, or at least what became less active in the Boule to support the civil rights movement, not because it was really for Black people, but they wanted to shop in the stores and be like white people. And once they achieved the opportunity to be around white people, they left the movement. The movement died once you got access to being around white folks. And when the part of the movement came along, economic access and empowerment for the poorest of the poor in our community, that's when the Boule left Dr. King, left everybody. They're enemies to the majority of us. Every single solitary one of them. If you laying down with dogs, you will get fleas. If you're in an organization, you know in your heart, as I was talking to a Boule member that has regrets, how hard it is to get them to give or do anything in the community, and they collect money and they say that they're service, but they won't do it. They like being better than the rest of us. They want to look down on us. They're like the Tethers and the illegals and everyone else. They use the Black masses as a stepping stone for advancement. They hate us. Reparations would make us whole. If we were whole, they would no longer be able, sort of like a person that commits identity theft. That's what they do. They claim to be us and with us, and they max out our cards. They lie in our name for their own personal enrichment that is unjust.
I did read that the Zulu Nation had basically disavowed African Bambaataa, and basically he tried to say he left, but they disavowed him, and they did, from what I understand, had put out a letter, a public statement. But it is amazing that most people in the
They put out a statement, but they've never really done a movie. Have they given restitution to the raped people? A letter. That's like white people apologizing for hundreds of years of slavery. I've seen all this before. It's empty. And why do you have to be the Zulu Nation? Why can't you be the Black nation in America? It's always got to be something. Who we are is never good enough. It always says, I got to be Egyptian, got to be a Jew. I got to be something other than us. What it really says is that Black people are worthless. We feel worthless, so we're going to identify with something that we're not. And as for a person that has Zulu DNA, which I most certainly have, I don't run around calling myself a Zulu.
So, Dr. Short, we see that, lately, I guess most people will say, if they don't know much about history, they'll say that the reparations movement is gaining steam and we're making progress.
The reparations movement is a moment. It's not truly a movement yet. It is not. It should be. I'd like for it to be. So would you. And I'm not against the moment, but we need a movement. In reality, this is back to the Boule. The Black people who've received the benefits of the movement, all the people that have been killed and beaten and jailed, those people have not put skin in the game. They're open to the benefits of reparations without giving anything. It's sort of like a lady that goes on a date but won't kiss you. You can feed me all you want. Sure. Yeah, daddy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you took her to the movies, you took her out to the play.
Right. And she has a Jim Crow sign on her groin. Right. No brothers allowed. So don't forget it. It can never happen for you. We have people who benefit while giving nothing. It's a free rider. It's a crooked system. These people benefited in the 60s. They didn't march. They didn't speak out. They didn't do anything. And when the doors opened, the person that had a criminal record for going to jail didn't get a job. And the person that wouldn't stand up got it. That facilitates the system. The system doesn't want people that stand up or think or speak out.
Mitch McConnell told Black America that President Obama was their reparations.
Obama was a reparations to self-hating Negroes. I had an NAACP leader in Tennessee tell me Obama was his reparations.
Wow.
Name is Murphy McKinney, the Madison County NAACP treasurer, if I'm correct. Obama is my reparations. I was so sick back in 2009. I was so disgusted. 2009 is one of the worst years in my life. Watching Black people that I used to respect just grovel like whores in the mire for Obama and all the lies that they didn't want to know that we weren't going to get anything. Anyone that dared tell Black people the truth got punished. But see, people forget that Obama's a Mason, so he's in the Boule. Michelle, I don't know what she is. Well, we know she's not fertile. We know that.
Hey, Dr. Short, I know you mentioned it to me before, and I don't know if it was off air or on air. Could you explain to us of the betrayal that Obama did to Jeremiah Wright?
Well, it's real simple. Obama rarely went to that church in the first place. You have to understand it's in Springfield, and anyone that has any issues, all you have to do is read what Michelle Obama said about her marriage, how she didn't like Obama for 10 years. That's a whole decade she didn't like her husband. Now remember, those children were no more than 10 years old when they got to the White House, because Obama's daughters are in their 20s now. So that means that she wasn't liking him before or after those girls were born. Okay, and it was Jeremiah Wright that got her to not leave Obama. It's also known that Trinity Church was a church for arranged marriages for people who were sexually ambiguous. That he's a man and he needs a wife. Hey, lady, why not do him a favor? It's not so bad. Don't you want to wear pretty little pearls and ermine and live in a nice house? He can do that. Maybe he can't screw, but he can put a roof over your head. I mean, you can buy yourself any kind. You can even have a little boyfriend, keep it clean, but don't. They do these things, sure. In fact, that's what the Boule is full of. Arranged marriages, certain whole Greek letter organizations are notorious for unhappy, bisexual, omnisexual, pansexual, non-binary families, where the people are more into having intercourse with their frats or sorors than the people that they're married to. Sure they are, which is why you'll never hear anybody complain about folks saying gay is the new black, because they embody it. Now back to Jeremiah Wright. Jeremiah Wright quoting the former U.S. ambassador to El Salvador, whose name is escaping me, when he said, "Goddamn America," and "Goddamn right," that wasn't Jeremiah Wright saying it for Jeremiah Wright, who served in the United States military honorably and was discharged honorably. He was quoting the former U.S. ambassador to El Salvador. Obama, knowing that he needed to distance himself from the very same Black community that he used to have credibility to exploit and trick and deceive all the other stupid as fuck Black people in America. And Chicago's the largest Black community in the country. Cook County's Black population is the largest single Black community. Even if they're in different cities, and that one county has over 1 million Black people. Obama used all of those Black people, in particular Jeremiah Wright, who's seen as the godfather, the prince of preachers, a mover and a shaker, Trinity Church, which had at one point easily 10,000 members or more, maybe even 20,000. It's the most important Black church in Chicago, the most important Black church in the Midwest of the United States, the largest United Church of Christ church in the world, one of the wealthiest churches in America. So what did he do? Obama, to please people, let folks know in that little speech he gave that he repudiated Jeremiah Wright and made it out that Jeremiah Wright is some racist. Most people don't know what Jeremiah Wright looks like. Jeremiah Wright is nominally Black if you looked at him. Frankly, Jeremiah Wright is the same complexion as Joe Biden. Jeremiah Wright, a terrible racist, a man that's nominally Black. Just looking at, if he carried himself differently, you wouldn't know whether he was Italian or Irish or Spanish or French or Portuguese or Slav or Frenchman or German. He's not a dark person at any stretch of the imagination. Jeremiah Wright is very, very light-skinned. If Jeremiah Wright wanted to pass himself off as white, he could do it. And maybe some of us are saying, he's not white, he's lying. He could have passed had he wanted to. So how do you, Obama, a person who's supposedly biracial, call a Black person who's just nominally Black, looking at him yourself, a racist? How? Did Jeremiah Wright ever say that white people were inferior to Black people? And mind you, as white as Jeremiah Wright looks, how would he look calling white people inferior when he looked like a white person? He probably wouldn't do it because it wouldn't work out for him. That was a signal that Obama was not for Black people. Jeremiah Wright was attacked. Obama has never, in fact, Audacity of Hope, the title of his book, is ripped off of a sermon that Jeremiah Wright has. He used the authenticity, they used the spiritual, social equity of people in Chicago to build this monster who turned his back on Obama. I'm sorry, to turn his back on Jeremiah Wright. And that Obama's now out of office. Has he ever gone back and said hello to Dr. Wright? Or Dr. Wright, please pardon me? Or Dr. Wright, I'm sorry? When the Chicago police were trying to find out who murdered 3 Black men potentially romantically involved with Barack Obama, do you know that Jeremiah Wright didn't use his weight to help the police find out who or why these gay men allegedly in relationship with Obama were murdered in such a brutal fashion. Did you know that, brother? Meaning that Jeremiah, they covered and caped for Obama, but Obama never ever said, "Hey, y'all, I needed to make it here. I got y'all now." He never did it. A lot of people, man, just don't ask him. Just let Obama, he's going to get us. He's got us. He's just got to get in. Bullshit. It's a game that all the liar blacks who are traitors make other black folks stand down, don't demand anything. I've got to like ignore and neglect and abuse you guys to show white people how tough I am. Do you realize no white politician is vicious to their base and survives? It never happens. If you don't deliver what you promise white folks, they're coming for you. We're the only people that says you can rape us, abuse us, and leave us on the side of the road. And you know what? We'll give you a rain check to hit us up again if you don't finish us off.
So he denounced Jeremiah Wright more than he denounced Bill Ayers.
He never denounced Bill Ayers.
Wow.
Bill Ayers ghost wrote his books for him. Obama hasn't written anything. He's out of office now. What has he written? He's been out. Where are his memoirs?
Well, he's got that legacy center where they're gentrifying all those great Chicagoan people.
And there are no jobs or opportunities or anything for people in the community. He hates black people. And I always remind people that I had a chance to hear Obama say he didn't care a damn about black people back in 1988. And everything I've seen in the succeeding 32 plus years has been a man that didn't give a damn about black people. And Obama's in the Boule, and the Boule love him because they don't care about us either. And you see it with Kamala Harris, who, okay, I was just talking to a friend, I won't say who, but he has a ex or whose ex-husband was a cocaine user. And guess who that cocaine user's friend was? Kamala Harris.
Kamala. I don't even know.
Kamala is the proper name. Kamala is the name. We say Kamala to make it sound like it's black. That's again, black women and wishful thinking, like they're wishing that the guy that beats and abandons them is going to be a simp. Then they won't respect him. How dare you stay in love and take care of me? I'm not a white woman. I got this, right? Anyway. Obama and Kamala are both frauds.
Well, at least Willie Brown got something out the deal from Kamala.
Well, I don't know. Not really. Not in comparison to what the white gentleman has. He's got international reach for his corporate concerns and covering for his corrupt business dealings. Willie Brown got some, how can I say, reheated TV dinner sex.
You there, Dr. Short?
Yes, I'm there. Willie Brown got some extramarital sex that he probably could have gotten for a lot less and probably fresher. He got nothing. And most simps who think just penetrating someone a few times is a big win. If it doesn't leave you a legacy, black men, it's like a wildcatter drilling a dry hole. You sure got a hole, but you didn't get a gusher.
So, Dr. Short, I had asked you about a week ago off air, and I know you, and it was crazy because I don't know why I never asked you on air this question about W.B. Du Bois. Did he know what he was doing?
Well, if he didn't know what he was doing, it makes no difference. If I'm flying an airplane and I'm drunk or high, sort of like that Denzel Washington movie, I think called Flight, I'm responsible for the souls of the people on that plane. And if I cause it to crash, whether I intentionally or unintentionally did it, I am responsible. Our people have a fundamental problem, we are like white people. We cop out. White people blame everything on other races. We blame everything on white people. We never ever take stock that this is us. So I want to remind people that Du Bois, he was brilliant, but there are a lot of people that are brilliant that don't do the right thing. For all the Black people that have a damaged ego and inferiority complex, and you need a Black person to study in Germany and in Europe and to have white approval that Black people are too smart, this is a sickness, then Du Bois is sort of like an idol to them, and his little curled up mustache, and he's not too dark, and he was smart, and he went to Harvard, and that's all of these things. People need all this. When you hate your own guts, as do most Black people, and they're ungrateful. Black people are God haters. We hate God. He let white people kick us in the ass and fuck us over, so we hate God and we hate ourselves. And so we need people like Du Bois that white people respect and have achieved things in white organizations and institutions. And that somehow makes it a little easier to get through life being Black and worthless. I don't see Black people that way, but many of our people see ourselves that. And in particular, the whiter you are, the better you are. The more you are like European people, the more decent you are. And it's a pretty sickening way to go through life. Alien self-psychology, Black self-hatred, Stockholm syndrome, whatever you want to call it. It's just a conundrum of garbage. So we don't like who we are, what we look like, who we are. We're always trying to find something to defend our damaged egos, that we feel bad that we aren't white. They don't love us. They won't like us. They won't let us be. So, and we need to find someone that could walk amongst them. And he was the only Black in the class, and he could withstand the abuse of the professors. And he gets his degree, and he's in Germany, and he's in France, and he's okay. I'm not knocking any achievement, but there are a whole bunch of us that have been the only Black people in classes and done well. But it's not just him. And we need to remember that Du Bois made a lot of mistakes. Every decade, he seemed to screw up constantly. What he was saying about Booker T. Washington was only half true. Howard University, which gets its federal appropriation every year. Every year, Howard University gets money from the government, about $400 million, in case you didn't know that.
Wow.
Maybe they get more. It may have gone up because of Trump, unless Biden took some of it back. Let me say, do you know who got the appropriation for Howard University? Not Du Bois. Booker T. Washington. And yet they'll tell you Booker T. Washington was against elite Black education. Booker T. Washington was a Christian. Booker T. Washington was a mulatto, just like Du Bois was. But you've got Hampton University, you've got Tuskegee University, you've got Howard University, and more. You have the National Businessmen's League, what did Du Bois leave behind?
The talented 10th.
No, something institutional. Du Bois didn't leave much. You have his books. You have people who are proud of how smart he was and how he did this, that, and the other. And he made Black people feel good. It's writing, it's books. He left a legacy, something, but in comparison to Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington's like a dude who impregnated a woman who had octuplets. And Du Bois is like a premature ejaculation. Sure, he did something. I guess that counts, right? It made it out. It made it out of the testicles and it came out. So something came out. But who remembers a preemie? And who can forget octuplets? Booker T. Washington stood up against genocide in the Congo and got black ministers to confront racist President Franklin Roosevelt, which ended the United States support for the Congo Free State, in which 15 million black people in Africa were killed. Du Bois played a role in that. I'm not Du Bois, Booker T. There's nothing that Du Bois did comparable for the butchery in the Congo. Nothing. He may have mentioned it. Think about that. The biggest genocide in the world going on when Du Bois did have a name and there was an NAACP and all of this. Du Bois didn't do much. Booker T did something. Du Bois did nothing. There was slavery in Liberia. Du Bois was friends with the slaveholding class. There was slavery in Manchuria, aka Manchukuo, under Japanese occupation. Du Bois admired the Japanese. Du Bois went to Russia at the height of the mass killing Ukrainians. He admired the Russian system. They're killing millions of people, starving them to death. By the way, Ukrainians, it's called the Holodomor. At least 7 million people starved to death between 1932 and 1937. Du Bois and them didn't see anything wrong. Du Bois never complained about the Russian communists betraying all the black people that went to Russia. Du Bois actually initially admired what was going on in Germany. Not the hatred of Hitler, but the German people getting themselves fired up. And Du Bois was an early supporter of Margaret Sanger, who said that black people were human weeds that shouldn't exist. Du Bois actually published for Margaret Sanger and her birth control review alongside Germans who mass murdered black people in Namibia and later would sterilize and kill black people in Germany. Some 50,000 black people died under the Nazi rule. It's very interesting that Du Bois asked to serve in the United States military. In exchange for getting a rank, he would spy on black people that weren't loyal to the United States. Du Bois also supported one of the most racist presidents in the history of the United States. Du Bois supported, over the objections of other black people, Woodrow Wilson. Du Bois was in China and was a great admirer of Mao Zedong. He was even there around the time of the Great Leap Forward, in which up to 100 million Chinese were starved to death by Chairman Mao. But he was a communist, and Du Bois a communist, so that's the 50s. So I could do each decade just a real major fuck up by Du Bois. And trying to figure out, how is he not getting this? Let me do something else. Let me just bring it back to America for all the people who are shallow. In the 1930s, when black people were starving and dying, and you asked, when did black people become Democrats in the previous conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the black economy collapsed in the 1920s, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt created a thing called the Agricultural Adjustment Administration, the AAA. And what the AAA did was it gave money to white farmers. Blacks weren't included. And so black farmhands, where the people took land out of production to get the prices for commodities to go up, that meant if I paid people not to grow cotton, then all the cotton pickers have no wages. Am I right? the money was put in the hands of the whites in the South, which meant some of that money was supposed to go to field hands. Do you think it went to the field hands? It didn't. Instead, the whites invested in mechanizing buying cotton picking machines and so forth. So what ended up happening is black folks from, say, 1929, all the way up until World War II, there were a lot of black folks that went years without having any kind of an income at all. And they were starving in various places in the country. So you know what they did? The only way that you could get to eat, sometimes you would flee the South and you'd move to the northern cities. And in order to get welfare, in order to get food, you registered as a Democrat and you voted Democrat or you died. So black folks face hunger and starvation, or a new type of subjugation where you got at least crumbs. So a lot of black folks started voting Democrat to eat. I'm not excusing the Republicans, not at all. But the Democrats, they didn't just give you the grub. You got it. So we'll give you some grub, but then no rights, no jobs, no opportunities, zero. So the Republicans might do some things, but they weren't going to feed you. The Democrats weren't going to do certain things for you, but they would feed you if you voted Democrat. And so you'll find all over the South, they have the worst social welfare policies all throughout the South. And they voted in the 60s for good social welfare programs in the North as a way to get black people to leave. Do you see what I'm saying? So the Democratic Party also, they started throwing up the public housing thing. This also came up under Franklin Roosevelt. And you began to put black people in these massive brick and cinder block reservations. So black people got something from Roosevelt, not enough. And then the war came along. And of course, the March on Washington movement of 1941, which frightened racist President Franklin Roosevelt to pass Executive Order 88, I think it's 8802, which opened up the United States war industry jobs to black people. And that's the beginning of the black middle class in this country. By the way, the Boule didn't support the March on Washington movement. So the very thing that helped open up the door for blacks to get jobs, the Boule didn't support it. Let me just say this to you. The March on Washington movement was aimed to bring 100,000 angry black people to Washington, D.C. to demand jobs. It would have been embarrassing to Franklin Roosevelt and the Democrats. So they passed this executive order, which created the Fair Employment Practices, FEPC. I forget what the C stands for, but it's Federal Employment Practices Committee, if I'm correct, or Commission. That's where certain blacks got these government jobs, where you have a lot of coons that don't stand up, and places like Washington, D.C. and Prince George's County. All these blacks that get these government type jobs that they think that they're special.
Set for life. I got a government job. I'm set for life. Someone
fought for you to get it. And it's interesting. The March on Washington movement only had 1,100 people. Out of 13 million black people, only 1,100 black folks signed up to confront Roosevelt. I mean, we're a cowardly lot. So when if you don't see me out here saying super radical stuff, hell no. You're by yourself if you speak up, if you give a damn. Because our people aren't with us. Part of the reason our people aren't with us is this goddamn Boule has niggas bound, bamboozled, brainwashed, locked up. And sometimes those people in different religious groups are Boules because they're still Masonic. I don't care what religious organization, what kind of Abrahamic religion. Yes, I'm going to include Muslim. All of these people, a lot of them are secret society too. They're more Shriners. There's some kind of secret society. They're not committed to our freedom. They're not committed. Look, we've got millions of Black people with degrees, with the skills. If they had a desire to really lobby for reparations and justice, we sure hell could have had it. The Boule wasn't behind Dr. King. But you know what? The movement got so big, they had to get out in front of it or look bad. Why are you against people being able to use the bathroom when they're downtown? And then there's some people that are useful idiots that are in these little secret societies. They aren't so bad, but they follow stupid, wicked people that are at the top of it that know what's really going on in order to please their rank and file, who ask them questions like, can't we say no to the police killing people? Well, let me get back to you. Well, yeah, well, I guess it's okay for us to say no to the police killing us.
Yeah.
Look at how the Kappa Alpha Psi people all showed up for Kaepernick, but you couldn't get them out for Tamir Rice. You couldn't get them out here for Eric Garner. These people are phonies. I'm glad they knocked down affirmative action. And I'm looking forward to them attacking other things. But you know, the Boule, they're going to try to get out in front of reparations or else look like they're useless. And there's a sense that people know that these people are screwed. The problem is we have another issue. The Boule also runs the church. The Boule runs the HBCUs. The Boule runs practically everything because you can't do things as individuals. And because we have a psychotic, schismatic culture where Black people don't come together, that means a bright person like you, Mr. Host. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to find another Black person to work with on even something small? How people run from you? But if it gets big,
I told you about that situation.
Once it gets big, all of a sudden, everybody's hand is out. Everybody claims you as long as it's functioning well. The minute there's any problem. So these Boule gangsters, they have discipline and order and punishment for members. And so they function literally as little sub-melanated nations amongst us. And the vast majority of us who are not organized or refuse to come together, or as I say, and again, another cuss word for that idiot, brotherfucker culture, castrator culture, pork chop feminist culture, faggonist culture, simp culture, nigger preacher culture, pedophile culture. These entities fight against and militate against there being a sense of brotherhood, mutual assistance, and uplift. Black men in particular, I have to talk about this. We're the backbone of the people, but we refuse to be, and we don't want any titanium inserts either. So if we don't come together, those of us that are not in the Boule, who don't need to have a boiling hot dogs shoved up our rectum and get hit with boards and beaten and march around with your genitalia pressed against someone else's buttocks and have to do all of that for us to feel something for each other. That's kind of sick that you almost have to like be inside another man's rear end for some sort of solidarity to emerge. That's a pretty weak fucking group of men if I've ever seen. All the other groups of men can come together and unite and support and help one another And it doesn't require that you drink the man's semen or eat his bowel movement or beat him down or hit him with the board or burn him. Why do we need all of that? Why is that necessary other than there's something depraved and missing? And why, with so much religion, so we say we have amongst us, there's not a sense of community, brotherhood, sisterhood, peoplehood, collective? It's just a baseline of what you could expect. It points to a people who have become godless if they haven't always been, and are in a situation where we're at death's door, morally and ethically. Frederick Douglass mentioned that part of what helped the slave plantation function was that they would let Black people be wild during the Christmas holiday, and the Black folks would be so disgusted by themselves, they literally were ready to go back and be slaves again because they couldn't handle freedom. Or what they took for freedom to be is, like we say now, keeping it real, debauchery, drugs, whoring, promiscuity. We have been tricked by many things into thinking that immorality and sexual impurity and debauchery was freedom. Exposing yourself, twerking, walk with your buttocks exposed, having multiple bastards and having polyandry and making lots of bastards and walking away from folks. That's freedom. Not building a legacy or a culture or family system or businesses or great institutions. Someone didn't teach us that, and that's the other insidious part of the Boule, so-called talented 10th. The educated people are supposed to raise people, lift people, elevate people, show people the higher things instead of the base things. I mean, you and I could talk about blunts and smoking and drugs. Sure, we could. I'll never bring that to you, sir, or anybody else. I'm not going to bring any porn to anyone. I don't. If I bring someone something, it's something that would be good for the mind, good for the soul. Would tell you about supplements or vitamins or exercise or thinkers or something enlightening to watch or to see or to do or places to travel. Yet I can say to you, from my many years of experience being around the university campuses, the greatest force that fought against Black awareness and Black dignity and awareness were the Greek letter people. If you were doing something that was serious, those folks would have something super stupid, filthy, debaucherous, lascivious, and you were always in competition with them leading our people, sort of like the people in the story of Pinocchio, where the young boys that played hooky from school ended up being jackasses in the salt mine. That's sort of what the Boule people did on the campuses. And there was always money for the Greek letter organizations. And if you wanted to do a Black history program, man, you'd had a colonoscopy and they'd look at your grades. If these people want to have a party where they're going to bring in illegal alcohol and do drugs and stuff, they're going to let them do it. But you talk about, say, let's look at the Black Panthers, or what's Martin Luther King's message, or Malcolm X's message, or Ralph Bunche. Who are you? How long have you been? Well, we're going to have to look at this. We're going to take this to the dean, right? They want to have we want to have a fat booty. Oh, well, you need to go over and speak to the people at the student affairs. I know they have a little budget for that, and we can provide the syrup, but you have to bring your own booze, right? They would get all kinds of help. If they raped someone, if they beat someone, if they stole, if they did something, because they had big brothers who were other people in these secret societies that would help them do all kinds of stuff. They weren't doing their work. They could call one of their frats and the teacher would give them a different grade. If you were a brilliant person, they didn't like you, you're too militant. They'd give you a C if you earned an A, and give a Greek letter person that hadn't come to class at all an A. They come out magna cum laude and can't even open a book. Proof of that, look at Kamala Harris. She's she's a living example of stupid mediocrity that's advanced by this Greek letter madness. So we're not going to get reparations because we're tolerating these people who are against us coming up. They don't want us to do better. Let me remind you, who was the no good person who came out to get against reparations in San Francisco? I call him Enos Brown. Enos Brown is a Greek letter society member, a Morehouse graduate, who's the pastor of who? Kamala Harris. And he went over to Africa when they were promoting LGBTQ to Africans. Who supports abortion in the Black community? Did you know it was the Greek letter organizations, the Boule supports abortion? Did you know that Boule supports transgenderism? Did you know that the Boule supports weed legalization? Did you know that the Boule supports gay rights? Did you know that the Boule supports the illegals? There's everything that eats us up morally and ethically from within. The Boule supports. Do you know that the Boule, the Greek letter women, went around helping to sterilize Black women in the South? That the AKAs, there's a woman named Dorothy Farabee Spaulding. They went around and helped sterilize, trick Black women into getting their tubes tied without talking to them what was really happening. Did you know that the Delta Sigma Theta and the AKAs promote Depo-Provera, which destroys the health and kills women, that Black women support Black women being sterilized and destroyed? Did you know that? How do they do this? You know, this is why I don't care, and I'm going to use some more foul language. I hope I offend someone. I don't give a fuck about establishment respectability niggas. They're trash. And I'm going to tell you, in another community, in another place in the world, if you did this to your own people, they would rise up and kill you. They wouldn't talk against, they would come burn your house down, get your kids, because no people wants to be wiped out. The things that the Boule is doing to the Black community and every other collective in the world is something that people are worthy of death. I repeat, the betrayal and the things that, if you're a Greek letter, you're worthy of death in every other community in the world. It is because our people are so immoral and so confused that you're seen as okay. And that's why I know that the Boule people support immorality, amorality, and filth and degeneracy. And the same way catfish don't mind shit in the water because it's another meal for them. These people don't want us to get our acts together. And that's why they're in the church too. Do you realize in a lot of cities, you can't be a pastor of a church unless you're Greek? And yet to be a Greek, the Bible says, first commandment, thou shalt have no other God before me. Well, do you know to join in those groups, you have to bow down and literally worship or pray or take an oath to a God other than one of the Bible. I'm certain if I could get a videotape of hell, it's going to be full of Black Greek letter and Masonic people who bowed before
The truth! You can't handle the truth!
They bowed down to Baphomet, which is a devil. And by the way, if the word of the Bible is true, that if people go with God, if they go against God, he allows them to be destroyed and oppressed by others. Read the prophets, that other people would come in and mess over them, or Deuteronomy 28. If you read about that in Deuteronomy, it talks about Mount Gerizim, the Mount of Blessings, and Mount Ebal, the Mount of Curses, that if you become wicked, you support abortion and degeneracy, that God will let people be enslaved and destroyed by others. We fit those passages in the book of Deuteronomy, we fit the category of people who turned their back on God and went after wicked, lying teachers and false prophets that got them genocided and enslaved by people who hated them. In fact, we'll never get reparations without a moral reformation, without a revival of a belief in one God, the true God, and to get back to where our ancestors, Callie House, didn't worship Anubis in Egypt. She didn't have a big Ankh tattoo outside her vagina. This isn't what our ancestors were on. All the people promoting all of this fake spirituality and devils, they're part and parcel of why reparations is a bridge too far. But the main people doing this are in the Boule. They helped kill Malcolm X. They facilitated the assassination of Medgar Evers. They were responsible for destroying Garvey. They helped kill Dr. King. They destroyed others. They've destroyed the HBCUs. They've debauched the church. They're part of the reason why we've aborted 20 million babies. They voted, many of them, for the mass incarceration bills of Joe Biden that destroyed the Black family. They've done this since they claim to be the leadership of our community and they claim to be the top of it, then they have to be accountable for all that is bad. So I blame the Boule for everything. The Boule, it's their fault. They're the ones that have done this. If you wanted to see, in fact, if you want to see things change, the day that people quit doing all this filth and nastiness and get serious about being upright and straight with the Most High God and with one another, we have a shot at getting restored. But at the rate we're going, following these nasty step show deviants, then we're dead meat. We're never going to get it. And they're going to kill all the hope. They're going to block everything. They're going to gatekeep. There'll be brilliant people that never get to make any contributions to our community because these lecherous Satanists, these people who are going to take our whole race to hell if we don't get exterminated before, they're the ones doing it. There's no way. I blame all of them. It's not one or two. We're not going to do like white folks want you to cherry pick which ones are racist or not. We say white people. I say the whole damn system. If you're in it, you're an enemy to Black people. You're standing in the way against us being restored. You're a part and parcel. You're a Judas. You're a Benedict Arnold. You're a Quisling. Every other people, I swear to you, every other people would seek to take you guys' lives if they understood what you stood for. I'm not advocating it, but I'll tell you something. Let a day come where Negroes begin to trip on the Boule. You'll see a whole lot of stuff change. Let me give you a Boule betrayal. A big Boule betrayal. Remember the Million Man March?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the headquarters for the Million Man March? Who headquartered the Million Man March in D.C.?
Was it Ben Chavis?
And what's Ben Chavis?
And this is why Dr. Khalid Muhammad had a problem with him.
Ben Chavis is a Sigma. The Sigmas were the hosts for the March on Washington. The Million Man March. The Million Man March was a Boule joint. We thought it was for Black people. No, it wasn't. And if I'm correct, I'm not certain which one, but I know that even Minister Farrakhan is an honorary member of a Greek letter organization. Oh, he most certainly is. Benjamin Crump, the mushy mouth, he looks like Curious George, the white from around his mouth. He's Boule. All these people are Boule. You see them everywhere. And you know what? He's like the opposite of Perry Mason. Perry Mason is white and he always wins, and he's black and he always loses. Come on, y'all. We're not going to get reparations because these same people couldn't get a Floyd George bill. They won't get behind anything. In fact, there's nothing. I was talking to you about Walter Fauntroy. Walter Fauntroy is Greek or Masonic, Prince Hall. They cut him loose. Right now, he's being managed by a black sodomite lawyer who doesn't like him. I get this from firsthand info. I'm just telling you. This is amazing, brother. The people that spoke, a lot of them are Greek at the Million Man March. We thought it was a black thing. We don't even know who we are. We're being hijacked. It's not just the Caribbean Black Caucus. That's what they may as well be. It's not just them. It's so many traitors. What's that song that the Brazilian singer, her name is Astrid Gilberto. She sung the song, tall and tan and young and pretty, the boy from, I'd say the girl from Ipanema goes on, right? Mm-hmm. She would sing the song, so many stars, so many stars, so many traitors, so many Boule, so many Greeks, so many Masons. You want to know why you're not getting anywhere? Do you realize if you have a car and every time you stop to get gas, the person gets out on the passenger side and takes an ice pick and stabs holes in the tire, how far are you going to go? No matter how much gas is in your tank, if your tires are flattened. Unless, you want to, ride like a bumpy hoopty with a donut tire on that they can't stab. You got me. The Boule has been doing this. In fact, I forgot to say this, and I got off. I was talking about Du Bois, and let's go back and talk about Du Bois. There was a reparations movement in the 1930s, an internal reparations movement. Mm-hmm. And they met. I bring this up to people that met in New York, not far from where you're from, Anamenia, New York. And young Black thinkers, scholars, activists that were excited that they were going to free Black people, but we had to have we needed we needed to do this economic, political thing to lift Black people up. And Black folks would have to turn to themselves and work together and be brothers and sisters and build up communities. And you know what happened? This is 1933, year after Franklin Roosevelt, the year that Franklin Roosevelt assumed the presidency of the United States. Du Bois did everything he could to destroy these young people for being racist. Oh, yes, the Black people says, these people don't like us. We can't make them, but we can do for ourselves. And these young people from all over the country, the best of our race, thinking that if they got around Du Bois, these other people, they would hear them and they could create a plan to really help Black people deal with all the needs, health, education, welfare, but we need an economy, and we would work and do the kinds of things, Black Wall Street stuff we talk about. And Du Bois and all of them denounced those young people as racist, chauvinist. He started talking like the fucking communist that he was. And they kicked those young people out of the NAACP. We don't want to hear anything you have to say. And our goal should be full integration. In other words, we have to be with white people. We're going to make them love us. I'm going to make you love me. Psych. All of our energy needs to be spent not on developing ourselves, not on having homes or dignity or health care or businesses of our own, But to get people who've hated us for centuries to love and include us. Here's a person that can pass for white that can't fit in because white folks know that you're not talking this crap. And so the young people were castigated, run off, destroyed, ruined. And all the white people cheered Du Bois's wisdom and dealing with those young hotheads. How dare these people want their own stores, their own businesses, and black people working to uplift themselves? Who do they think they are? We need these other people. We'll never make it alone. We're not important enough. We don't have anything to offer the world unique, but we can be part of the America, right? And wow, things go on for a while. And about 10 years later, 1943, I think Du Bois, seeing the riots in Harlem and the whites just hunting down, killing black people in Detroit and other places, said, you know, black people need their own businesses. Black people need their own institutions. You know what happened, don't you? The whiteys at the NAACP kicked Du Bois out. Get out, nigger. They did to him what he did to the young black people who saw him as a hero, saw him as almost like Jesus, someone that this brilliant man that had been in Germany, this man's been all over the world. This man was so smart. He publishes a crisis magazine. He knows all the brilliant black people, and we're going to come together. And Du Bois never really recovers from being, he's dead 20 years after he dies in 1963. He gets kicked out of the NAACP in 1943. And then the white people say, oh, wait a minute. We need somebody to run crisis. Let's bring him back for a little bit. And they brought him back, and then they threw him back out again. That's like... Okay, but you know what? In the words of a simp, the taste of white pussy is better than never having had none at all. I can assure you that I'd say 50% of the black men and women listening to this would be willing to lose their lives over some interracial relationships, because I'd say half of us are so fatally lost. We can't be saved because we hate our own guts. That even a chance to be laid in the same bed with a white person is reparations, it's freedom, it's justice, it's democracy. Unfortunately. And I think Du Bois, having had some white woman rape him in Germany, probably helped him out. Assimilation is what the Boule and these people want. If we could just be as white people. And, you know, if you understand the whole program of assimilation that whites offered the Indians was a lie. They really planned for the Indians to die off as we're dying off, making it seem as if we learn and be just like them, dress that they'll let us in. They won't keep us like this. Nothing in their history says that they're going to relent in how they're doing. But Du Bois, a person who didn't really believe in God, believed in white people, or believed in Western civilization or something, you know. And ultimately, when he got completely dogged out, he just went full commie. And yet, Karl Marx was a Satanist. And so he ends up in Ghana, okay. And it's just, wow, the Boule is in denial. And folk like them. Have you ever dealt with white folks that were afraid of black people that knew what time it was? But the black people that are self-deceiving, they love them because they don't see it coming.
They know more than you. They're smarter than you. They get bit by the same lizard.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is what they do. And look, let this situation on Biden go down where they get exposed. And this crossfire hurricane is really known by the public. And I hope it is. Do you know who they're going to throw off up as a human sacrifice to please white people for their anger and rage?
Kamala?
No, Obama and Michelle. I can see in the next 2 years, Obama becoming a hated figure and then revisioning history and finding out all this bad stuff. Everything that's been hidden, all of a sudden they won't need him anymore because he's become a problem. And he's black people won't get behind him, thank God, at long last. They're going to offer Obama as a human sacrifice to expiate the rage of whites who are miserable, whose children are dying of fentanyl and so forth. Watch. I hope I live to see a day where people just really say how they really felt about a black person being in the White House. I can't wait. Neither can you. Let me tell you something. When Frontline and they do a revision, because when they get ready, they always show you what they really think. They're playing a long game with this dude, this Bullwinkle looking dude, and his strange wife. They're going to expose them. And by the way, the Boule shelf life may be 5 to 10 years. Black people are going to be so desperate in the next few years until we will see situations so serious, whether it's mass shootings of blacks by police or white nationalists. It's already happening by black criminals, which is basically excuse other people to do it. And it's going to be very interesting to see where the Boule Negroes stand. You know they're not going to stand with black people. Right. You're going to see a lot of these things. This is what happened in the 60s. A lot of people stepped away from these organizations because they weren't doing nothing. We're at a very interesting point. But no, the Boule Grinch is eating reparations. For them, being able to help destroy us for white power is their reparations. So reparations for the masses of black people means that they would no longer be important as the oppressor middleman class. So that's what I have to say here.
So with that, folks, thanks for joining us. Dr. Short, appreciate you. Thanks for letting us know some history on the Boule and their intentions. Yeah. And you guys in the chat,
like this video, hit the like button, hit like, share. And as for me,
just pay attention to what Dr. Short said and just sit back and watch the misdirection that the Boule plays with some of the reparations conversation, some of the organizations that they'll put their money behind to divert reparations based on lineage. As you guys may have seen, the last survivors of the Tulsa massacre, a judge just denied their reparations.
And you're not going to hear anybody say anything.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? And we need to remind people, don't let the cussing fool you. This is serious analysis. And always bless this speaker. You know, I found some new books on the genocide of Indians, and it's linked up to black people and so forth. I need to get some more books. So I absolutely always say to audiences, if you want to help me, cash at me at Dr. Randy Short. I need to buy about, that's one book that's $95. I got to have it. I need to have books and more books. So when we have these conversations, I can share it. So it's $ Dr. DRRANDY, Dr. Randy Short. Send me a piece. It's necessary. It's needed. If you do PayPal or Zelle, I'm wrandyshort@gmail.com. wrandyshort@gmail.com. That's Zelle and PayPal. And it is a way to email me directly if you have a question, Forgive me for interrupting you, brother host.
No, it's perfectly fine.
So, yeah, but please tell everybody about this channel. We're going to be bringing Dr. Winters in a matter of days. We're going to bring the house down. We're going to be talking about Black Power. Everything that you're not supposed to hear or know, we're going to snitch. This is the snitch your bitch your line. If you want to be a fellow coon busting snitch bitch, be here the next time we drop a video.
With that, take care. Have a great night.